In the movies, mass surveillance embodies government overreach. But now, surveillance for the good of public health has arrived in the form of contact tracing apps.
Digital contact tracing tools offer the opportunity to trace larger numbers of contacts in a shorter period of time.
This creative innovation may be just what the government needs to aid in efforts of contact tracing.
One app can even win you some cash if you can prove you're at home.
لك 1000 دينار. روني وايد قاعد انت بالزنزة.
But have things gone too far?
We've seen essentially governments exploit the spread of a public health crisis to basically accelerate the erosion of civil liberties and privacy.
An investigation by Amnesty International's Security Lab revealed serious privacy and security concerns with some countries' apps.
This data obviously being so sensitive requires an enormous amount of diligence over the authorities to make sure that it's being used appropriately.
And the ones most concerning from a human rights perspective were from Bahrain, Kuwait and Norway.
أنا شخصياً لن أحمل هذه التطبيقات وأنا أدعو مدافعين حقوق الإنسان والأشخاص الأكثر تضرراً من قمع السلطات المحلية أن لا يقوموا بتحميل هذا النوع من التطبيقات.
Amnesty's investigation found a number of issues with the technology and design choices of some apps.
The most troubling thing, I suppose, is the extent to which these apps start collecting information about people's movements that might extend beyond what seemed to be strictly necessary. Some of the apps are essentially able to live stream to a very high accuracy the location in GPS coordinates of the device and therefore of the person and people's essentially daily lives.
Amnesty carried out a detailed technical analysis of 11 apps, mainly in the Middle East, North Africa and Europe.
The app from Bahrain, the app from Kuwait, and including also the app from Norway, all seem to show some properties that were concerning from a privacy perspective and from a human rights perspective. And the bottom line is that all three do conduct that aggressive location tracking.
Many contact tracing apps just use Bluetooth to help keep track of who you've been close to. But tracking people's movements using GPS as well, like Kuwait's Slonik and Norway's Smittestopp apps do, can be more revealing.
Data that is being collected from these apps are able to see where you are, when you are, and potentially aggregate that data from others and see who you are with at any point in time. So it's a very excessive and aggressive measure.
Unlike other contact tracing apps that anonymize users, Bahrain, Kuwait and Norway's apps link users to identities through phone or ID numbers. Accessing this much data could help these governments track and contain the spread of the disease quickly as part of an effective pandemic response. But there were other issues Amnesty found within these apps. For example, some countries have gone for a decentralized approach where contact tracing is processed on the user's phone and personal data remains on the device. But Amnesty say Norway, Bahrain and Kuwait's apps automatically upload and amass any collected data to centralized servers. A design choice which could pose a security risk.
We've seen issues of data not being properly handled, which could potentially lead to severe privacy violations of everybody using these apps, especially those that make it mandatory.
Qatar is one country enforcing the use of its Etiraz app by law, with heavy fines otherwise. But Amnesty found a weakness that left over 1 million users' data, including their name, ID and health status, exposed to cyber attackers. After being alerted by Amnesty, the Qatari authorities rushed out an update, fixing the flaw. Further worries also come from where else the data created by these apps could end up.
هناك تخوف بأن يتم مشاركتها مع أطراف أخرى غير الأطراف الحكومية المفترض أن يتم مشاركتها مثل وزارة الصحة أو بعض الأطراف المفترض المسؤولة عن محاربة كورونا.
The most surprising shared use of this personal data can be found on Bahrain TV's game show Are You at Home? To encourage downloads, users are automatically entered into the game show, although they can now opt out. One is then called at random, and if found to be at home and compliant with the rules, they can win 1,000 dinar.
عندنا رقم التليفون، ولكن من رقم التليفون نقدر نعرف وين البيت وين العنوان لأنك أنت مسجل في أبليكيشن مجتمع واعي في رقم البطاقة الشخصية، فإذا رقم البطاقة الشخصية موجودة الجهات المختصة تقدر تتأكد من كل البيانات.
But incentivizing people in this way to use the app has privacy advocates worried.
It's definitely one of the new tactics employed by governments to kind of make their way into people's pockets.
The issues uncovered by the investigation raise privacy and human rights concerns, particularly for countries in the Middle East.
There's a very long history of the Gulf not upholding human rights at all. When you equip a repressive state with the means to surveil an entire population, whether it's in the name of public safety or not, you can be certain that it's only going to enhance their means of control and repression. To then track down dissidents or anyone that they consider to be a public threat. In a lot of places like the Gulf, that means activists.
The biggest concern, though, is whether these apps will outstay their welcome as the pandemic recedes.
Historically, there's been no incentive for governments to limit their overreach into people's privacy. On the contrary, if you take a look at 9/11 and the aftermath of that, it essentially ushered a new era of surveillance in the name of protecting citizens, and this time is no different.
Governments are already looking at uses for these apps outside of pandemic control. In Hangzhou, China, authorities are looking into the idea of giving its citizens a health score, an idea which, for now, receives strong pushback from netizens on social media. In Norway, you don't have to go to extreme measures to protest against the app. You can just come right out and say it.
Og det andre som plager meg med appen er det at overvåkning. Ja, jeg sa det. Det er kjempekontroversielt. No!
But for people in Bahrain and Kuwait, the experience is very different.
إذا تم انتهاك الخصوصية في منطقة مثل النرويج، أستطيع أن ألجأ إلى المحاكم المحلية. انتهاك الخصوصية أستطيع أن ألجأ إلى الآليات الإقليمية، المحكمة الأوروبية واللجان الأوروبية المتعلقة بحقوق الإنسان. في منطقتنا لا توجد أي آليات، بالعكس اللجوء إلى السلطات المحلية قد يكون خطر إضافي وليس تقليل المخاطر.
Since the BBC spoke to Norway about Amnesty's findings, the Norwegian government said they have temporarily suspended its Smittestopp app and deleted all the data it collected. In a letter to the BBC, the Norwegian Institute of Public Health said they would be looking at other solutions, like the decentralized Bluetooth contact tracing model developed by Google and Apple and being used in Germany and Ireland. Amnesty says this solution is less concerning privacy-wise. Qatar's communications office told the BBC,
"We are constantly upgrading the platform to protect data privacy and mitigate security risks. Data is strictly restricted to relevant specialist public health teams and will be stored only as long as the app and contact tracing program are required to combat the virus."
Bahrain and Kuwait did not respond to the BBC's request for comment.